Hello, 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 and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have another great episode for you of this amazing show. Before we get into it, please make sure you're following on all of our social media platforms. They are scrolling across the screen at the bottom there. And yeah, we got lots to talk about. We have James Comey has been indicted. We have a lawsuit against Trump has finally been settled with YouTube, the platform that we are on right now. We have Trump RX coming in, and finally we have Pete Hegseth getting the Marshmallow Marines out of our great U.S. military. But with that, let's go ahead and get into our very first story of today. It is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. We are in season 3 of this show. Every episode comes out on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be on the lookout for all those X, YouTube, and Rumble. They're going out live on all those different platforms. But yeah, let's go and get into our very first story. James Comey, back in the news today. So this is a bit delayed, so it's about 5 days later. I didn't have time to cover this last week, but James Comey has been indicted by the Department of Justice. Russian hoax conspirator James Comey indicted for obstruction, lying to Congress. So you may remember James Comey here, former FBI director during the Obama administration, helped to orchestrate the Russia hoax, everything that we as Republicans have been saying for years at this point, that finally having credible evidence coming out proving for a fact that this happened. Thank you, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, for getting all that out. So a grand jury indicted former FBI Director James Comey on Thursday on 2 counts: false statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. The indictment, which was brought by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia, centers on alleged false testimony Comey provided to Congress in September of 2020 about his handling of the Russia collusion hoax. Quote, on or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant, James B. Comey Jr., did willfully and knowingly make a material lie, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. Senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he had not, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning Person 1. The indictment reads, the indictment alleges such a statement was false since Comey, quote, then and there knew he in fact had authorized Person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning Person 1. The indictment further alleges that Comey tried to, quote, influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of the inquiry by making false and misleading statements before the committee. The charges arise from testimony Comey gave in 2020 when Senator Ted Cruz questioned him about testimony he previously provided in 2017, in which he stated, quote, he did not authorize leaking information regarding the FBI's investigations into President Donald Trump or former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. As described by NBC News, Comey told Cruz he stood by that testimony. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, another scumbag, said Comey was made aware of the lack of information to the press and essentially gave it the stamp of approval after the fact. A 2018 Justice Department Inspector General's report found. Addressing the indictment, Attorney General Pam Bondi said, quote, no one is above the law in a statement on X. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. FBI Director Kash Patel issued a similar statement saying, quote, for far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue to fight to earn that trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Quote, nowhere was the politicalization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax. A disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account, no matter their perch, Patel continued. This is fantastic. I'd like to point out a couple of things. The government, excuse me, the left is taking the position that all of a sudden Trump is targeting his political enemies, right? It started with Jimmy Kimmel and them saying that the FCC was somehow involved in taking Jimmy Kimmel out. It clearly was not, considering Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air again. So that was just a complete lie from the left on this. And now they're saying that, oh, Trump is trying to take us political enemies by going after James Comey. Which, first off, if you're going to choose someone to go after who's one of your enemies, why would you go after James Comey? He's not working in the government right now, right? Why wouldn't you go after, like, congressmen or like other like people? Why are you going after James Comey, right? I'm just saying. Or why wouldn't you go after Obama or Hillary Clinton, right? These are much bigger people who committed much larger crimes than what James Comey has. I'm just saying. So I just think it's completely fabricated. On top of that, the left is the one who opened up the whole can of worms to go after people in government. They tried to imprison Donald Trump for hundreds of years. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to bankrupt his family. They tried to put his friends and family into prison. And they tried to kill the president, right? The left started this. I'd also like to point out that Donald Trump had every opportunity during his first term from 2016 to 2020 to go after people like this, but chose not to, right? He chose not to. His Justice Department chose not to indict, right? This evidence existed then. We're talking about Russiagate. Russiagate happened during the 2016 election cycle. So the evidence has been there all this time, right? So the Trump administration had every opportunity to go after people like James Comey during his first term, but he chose not to. He chose not to until after the left opened that can of worms. Donald Trump did not open it. The left did. And as soon as they went after Trump, Trump said, all right, time's up. Let's take them all out. Let's go after each one of them. Let's put them in prison. Let's indict. I'd also like to point out that the biggest crime that James Comey did, he was not indicted over. The grand jury did not find there enough evidence worthy to indict over it. So he's only indicted for two things, when it really should be three, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there at this point. But I'm just saying, right? Let's have some common sense here and stop pointing fingers and say who really started this. And it was not the Republicans. It was the left. It was what's his name? Bragg in New York. It was Loretta James. Is that her name? In Georgia, right? It was all of these people going after Donald Trump in several different states over a whole bunch of different things that started all this. And they tried to persecute their political enemy. They went after the big dog, right? They did not go after Mike Pence. They did not go after other members of the Trump administration. They went after Donald Trump. That was clearly them going after their political enemy, trying to imprison their opponent, put him in prison for the rest of his life so he could not be president again because they were scared of him. And they were right to have been scared of him, considering he won the 2024 election. And no matter how much they fought to try and put him down, no matter how much evil came out from the left, good overcame, and we have Donald Trump back in the White House. I'm grateful for it. All right. Move on to our next story. These are all Trump stories. These are all great. I feel like we have episodes where we have a lot of positive news, and then we have episodes where we have a bunch of negative news. It kind of go back and forth, it feels like. So we have another positive Trump news. So Donald Trump scores $22 million payout after YouTube settles lawsuit over account suspension. We're on YouTube right now. YouTube reportedly agreed to give a $24.5 million settlement over a lawsuit filed by President Donald Trump over the suspension of his account in 2021. The vast majority of YouTube's settlement will be directed towards funding construction of a new White House ballroom that Trump is building. Court documents say that $22 million will be given to the Trust for the National Mall, which is, quote, dedicated to restoring, preserving, and elevating the National Mall. to support the construction of the White House State Ballroom, according to CNN. The remaining settlement money, $2.5 million, will go towards other plaintiffs on the case, such as the American Conservative Union, according to the Wall Street Journal. YouTube, owned by Alphabet's Google, suspended the president's account after the events of January 6, 2021, claiming that Trump then, in the final days of his first term, had violated the platform's rules regarding incitement to violence. YouTube, it's always something like that, it seems like. YouTube reinstated Trump's account 2 years later and is the final big tech company to settle a lawsuit from the president over a slate of social media bans. Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, settled a lawsuit with Trump for $25 million in January. Most of Meta's settlement funds were directed towards Trump's presidential library to be built in Miami. X, formerly Twitter, before Trump ally Elon Musk took over the platform in 2022, settled a lawsuit with the president in February for $10 million. So this is fantastic, right? This is another good always perseveres, good always overcomes evil, and we fought back, and Trump fought back, and he said this was wrong. My account should not have been banned. This is ridiculous that you're kicking me off your social media platforms, which, by the way, I would like to say we need to figure out in this country if our social media platforms are publishers or if they're editors or if they're editorials, because there's a difference. There are protections in this country for publishers, and there are protections in this country for editorials, right? And the difference is that publishers, anyone on the platform can publish information. Is not the job of YouTube to decide what I say on their platform if they are in fact a publisher. But they are an editor. They get to decide who's on their platform and what they put on their platform and what they say and if it really is a free speech ground or not. And these social media giants are campaigning as free speech behemoths when in reality they are kicking people off their platform for saying speech that they don't agree with or for saying the truth, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see that Donald Trump is back on YouTube. I guess he has been back on YouTube, it seems like, but at least got a payout from YouTube over $22 million. Doesn't seem like hardly enough, but hey, at least it's something, and it should teach these companies a lesson about, hey, you can't ban people on these platforms anymore. This is insane, right? Let's keep moving right along. From Blaze Media. So Trump RX website to offer discount drugs as part of landmark big pharma deal. President Donald Trump unveiled a new deal to drastically reform the pharmaceutical industry and reduce drug prices for consumers. Trump announced that Pfizer would be heavily discounting some of its, quote, most popular medications, and that all new medications introduced in the U.S. markets would be sold at the, quote, reduced most favored nation cost. Trump also revealed that these discount drugs will be available for purchase on a federally operated Trump RX direct-to-consumer website. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down like nothing else. Especially low-income Americans will be helped so greatly, Trump said in the Oval Office on Tuesday. Quote, this is a consequential moment for our country, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a post on X. Quote, drug prices will be lowered for every American thanks to the negotiation prowess and determination of President Donald Trump. Democrats have been waiting to do this for decades. The Trump administration has delivered. Just like to say, Democrats were flipping out over increased healthcare costs. Stuff like this brings down healthcare costs dramatically. So the White House put out this graphic here that shows the discounted rates for some various drugs out there. So from migraines to dermatitis, postmenopausal, osteoporosis, and rheumatoid arthritis. So 80, 85, 50, and 40% discounts on all of those going down the list, which is that's a big deal, right? I mean, a 40% discount on a drug is a big deal, especially when you're considering that some of these drugs cost hundreds of dollars per round of prescription for them. So a 40% cost decrease in cost is a big deal, let alone an 85% decrease. I would just like to say too, you see how much money these pharmaceutical companies are making off of their drugs when they can drop the price of them 85% and still be making money off it. Because you know these companies are still going to be making a load of money off of their drugs, even at an 85% discount. Trump initially issued an executive order in May that directed drug companies to offer the quote most favored nation price for American patients. If they failed to do so, the Department of Health and Human Services would make a rule to implement the policy, and the Food and Drug Administration would revoke approvals for drugs that may be unsafe, ineffective, or improperly marketed. Trump also wrote to over a dozen major pharmaceutical CEOs in July demanding that the manufacturers voluntarily extend the most favored nation pricing to all medicines provided to Medicaid recipients. Trump gave these companies until Monday to formally respond. Quote, if you refuse to step up, we will deploy every tool in our arsenal to protect American families from continued abuse, drug price practices, Trump wrote. So far, Eli Lilly pledged to raise prices in Europe in order to lower costs in the United States. Bristol Myers Squibb similarly plans to change the same list price for a new schizophrenia treatment in both the United States and the United Kingdom. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There's no doubt about it. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla said during the press conference. They are the ones that will see significant impacts in their ability to buy medicines. Oh, shut up. I do not care what the Pfizer CEO or any pharmaceutical CEO has to say about all of this. Believe me, they are doing this kicking and screaming. They are the ones that kept their drug prices so high that are now coming down 85%. I don't give a damn what these CEOs have to say about what's going on. And typically I'm very capitalist. Typically I'm very much like, hey, let's let companies decide what they want to offer for a product. But these companies, guys, these companies were offering drugs in other countries for lower price than they were offering for Americans. That has to end, right? It's one thing to say, hey, we're offering the same drug price to everyone in the whole world. It's another thing to say, hey, we're going to lower the price for certain people in certain countries, right? You should be offering the same price to everyone regardless of the customer. We're all humans, right? Schizophrenia doesn't change because I live in a low-income area versus a rich area. It's the same illness. We're all the same on the inside, right? So I'm glad to see this change. This is fantastic. All right, let's get into our very last story. We got to talk about I'm calling them Marshmallow Marines. You call them what you want. I'm saying Marshmallow Marine. I think that's fun. So Pete Hegseth demands troops meet, quote, male-level physical standards, rails against fat troops and military. I call them Marshmallow Marines. Sorry, all you Marines. But Pete Hegseth says, fat troops. We don't want the fat troops. War Secretary Pete Hegseth angered a near unprecedented gathering of America's top generals and admirals Tuesday. Which, by the way, everyone was flipping out. They're like, why is Pete Hegseth called all these generals and stuff to come and meet with them and everything? What's going on, right? He was talking about Marshmallow Marines, guys. That's what was going on. Don't flip out so often, right? So, announcing that, quote, dudes with dresses were not welcomed in U.S. combat forces, and the rest must meet male-level physical standards to face life and death situations. If women and weak men don't make the grade, so be it, Hegseth said in remarks to Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations and frankly any formations and see fat troops, he went on. It's unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading around all the world. It's a bad look, and that's not who we are. Hegseth's fitness directive will be sent out to each branch of the service and will highlight new mandates and standards for service members. It's all part of his plan to toughen up the force and to carry out President Trump's orders to de-woke the military, he said. quote, no more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses, no more climate change worship, no more division, distraction, or gender delusion, no more debris. I've said before, and I will say it again, we are done with that S, he said. Combat forces will have to do real hard physical training every day and undergo 2 tests each year to ensure they are up to the highest male standard. So I think this is fantastic. I have nothing wrong with this. This is not to say that that women cannot be in the military any longer. But what it is saying is, hey, our enemies are sending their best to fight us. And in a time of war, war does not care if you're a man or woman. War only cares about who's the strongest, who's the toughest, and who can fight the hardest. And that's exactly what the Department of War is doing. And I'm here for it. Let's go. No more Marshmallow Marines. But with that, folks, that is the end of today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I know that I have. I love spending time with you all twice a week. It is a great time. So be sure to tune in on Thursday, 6 p.m. for our next episode. And yeah, if you have any comments or suggestions for the show, make sure you put them in the comments down below. Send me a message on Twitter. Let me know what you think. Make sure you share the show with your friends and let people know, hey guys, Nathan Hale, he's got the best opinions on the internet right here. Best opinions on the internet right here. Best dressed on the internet too, by the way. I got the pink out today. I'm feeling very, very flamingo pink today. Broke out this pink shirt. I don't think I've worn this on the show before. I could be wrong. I don't think I've had this pink shirt on in quite a while. But I was feeling the pink today. I had to bring it on. I always got to show up for all of you. I appreciate you so much for watching and sharing this around and continuing to support the show in every way that you can. But with that, I have been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. We'll see you back here on Thursday for yet another episode of this show. With that, peace out.